Okay. Oops. No, I have to go. Sorry. Two here. Start at the beginning. Okay. So each week I've just been reminding you, and you probably know by now that these sessions have all been recorded, along with some other resources like guided meditations and some articles and some video clips. And they're all available on the Mindful Heart page of the program, of the Deep Resilience Program's website. So they're all there for you if you're interested in following up afterwards. And again, just to say that our WhatsApp group, our Deep Resilience WhatsApp group, you know, Sandy was just saying how much she's enjoyed the kind of the nature part of the teachings and so on. Well, this is a great way of keeping in touch moving forward. To join, you know, to join the WhatsApp Deep Resilience group, and each day people are posting photographs from their sit spots, sharing little stories, little videos, and it's yeah, it's coming. It's really more and more folks are beginning to come in. So, just encouraging you, if you're interested, and if you have your phone with you right now, you can go in through that QR code, or that QR code is also available on the Deep Resilience website as a way of coming in, so you can find it there. And yeah, just reminding you all that these were the 7 steps that we've been through over the last 7 or 8 weeks together. And our last session last week was on sustainable, compassionate action. You know, how we can become a field of care, how we can become a field of care for ourselves, but how we can also become a field of care for others and for our world. And what we need to get there, what we need to sustain us in that, especially in a world of such relentless stress and uncertainty, where it's so easy to get overwhelmed or burnt out. And so hopefully these practices that help us to deeply root more and more deeply in the ways we've been exploring together can really make a difference. And we finished our last session by kind of just asking the question, what do we need for this? What do we need to help sustain us as we move forward? And there was the suggestion of making a self-care inventory, and there are a couple of ways of doing that available, you know, again on the Mindful Heart program's website, on the Deep Resilience page. I posted a couple of little templates that you can use just to reflect on what are your self-care strategies. How do you practice basic self-care? How do you practice deep resilience? And you know, kind of recognizing how challenging it is to do that in our busy and stressful lives. What kind of resources do we need to really help us in that? And how it can be helpful to go back and review and revisit our intention. You know, really, for whom and for what do we really want to be more deeply resilient? And there was the suggestion of kind of doing a little exercise that you could do at a sit spot, or you could do it in a group of 3 with if you're in touch with 2 others in the program who know what you're talking about, and you know, take turns, you know, for each of you to be yourself, the other person to be an ancestor, and the third person to be a future being, and to kind of say out loud what you need moving forward, and how you can possibly organize those resources, and hear what the ancestor has to say in feedback, and hear what the future being has to say in feedback. It's kind of like role play, and then you rotate that around, each person becoming, you know, a different person in the triad. And then really kind of encouraging you to maintain practices that help you to root more deeply in what isn't afraid and what doesn't die. And the ones we've really been advocating here are the sit spot practice and the non-dual meditation practices, the field of care, compassionate presence to feelings, and kind of resting in awareness, in luminous awareness. And noticing that something synergistic happens when our practice combines with service, and how it doesn't have to be about changing the world, how a simple act of care or a simple act of kindness is actually an act of resistance in a culture of polarization and fear and divisiveness. A simple act of kindness is repairing a thread in the web. So we covered all of that, and then these self-care inventories for self-care 1.0 and self-care 2.0 are available online, and maybe some of you have had a chance to look at that. And so, as I say, what I really was hoping for tonight, and I kind of talked too much last week. I kind of, was really recapping on the 7 weeks, and then talking a little bit about step 7 at the end, and it took up our full hour. So we really didn't have any time for discussion. So the idea of this evening is for us to have space to check in a little bit. Anything from the program is open for discussion. If anybody's got any questions, we're going to take a little bit of time, one at a time, looking at sit spot practice and looking at the kind of non-dual meditation practices. And then we're going to take a little time about talking about where we go from here. So let's begin with the sit spot practice. And these are just a few images from one of my sit spots. Although I have to say, I'd love to hear from others here tonight. I mean, I think for a lot of us, sit spots are not so much, not always places we go and sit in a kind of sedentary way. But I mean, for me, it's a walk through the little forest by the Natural History Museum here in Santa Barbara, or it's a walk on the mesa in the Douglas Preserve. We often bump into Cassandra, some others, and Darlena. So it's often it's a sort of an immersion practice, but a practice where we spend enough time immersed and connected in the natural world and become really deeply familiar with the place, the landscape, the beings of that place, the moods of that place, how that place is in different times of the day, in different weathers, in different seasons, getting to know the beings of that place. Anyway, these next couple of images are just from this evening, and just the stunning beauty that kind of surrounds us on all sides, and for me, beauty, nature's beauty, is really a quality of the field, of the kind of that deep, luminous ground. Beauty is a quality of that, and really, opening to that beauty and letting that beauty draw us into oneness with it can really be a portal into that deeper ground, that deep, luminous, groundless ground. Some of you may recognize this little bird. He or she was there this evening as I just was kind of entering into the forest by the museum, and it's a little black phoebe, little flycatcher, and I love these little phoebes. And here's just a very short little movie clip of the phoebe. Very short. Now, we touched on this last week, and I wanted to revisit it because I think this is, for me, this has become a really powerful little addition to my sit spot practice. So, I do all the things I've been sharing with you, finding a place, becoming familiar with that place, and then on arrival, honoring that place, coming with an attitude of respect, humility, and then taking time, just letting the mind settle into the body, opening the senses, deciding on a particular sense door that you might work with to begin with as a way of coming into deeper connection, maybe through sight or sound or touch or taste or smell. And then kind of practicing as we practice mindfulness, bringing our attention to it, not forcing our attention, say to our hand on the bark of a tree, not forcing our attention on the sensation of contact between the palm of our hand and the tree, but sort of gently just bringing our attention there, noticing how our mind comes in again and again with comments, subjections, labels, and just noticing that and letting go of that, and then gently letting the attention come back into your body and into the open palm of your hand. But what John McCransky added for me with what he calls the Dzogchen move is that, as well as doing all of the above, actually letting the feeling or letting the sensation that you're experiencing in the place, letting it draw you into oneness with it. Letting it draw you into oneness with it. And so I thought, just once again, I'll do this little Dzogchen practice. Just invite you just to find your posture, straight back, feet on the ground, seat on the chair. And the instruction, closing your eyes so you can bring all your attention to your hearing, to the open door of your hearing, to simply hearing what you're hearing, and then to allow the sound to draw you into oneness with it. That's the simple instruction. Allow the sound to draw you into oneness with it. If you get distracted, if you get carried away by thoughts or distractions, gently let go of the thought or distraction and come back to the sound and let the sound draw you into oneness with it. So let's do this just for a minute or so. Letting the sound draw you into oneness with it. Then letting the silence draw you into oneness with it. So this is an image I shared in the WhatsApp group the other day, the Deep Resilience WhatsApp group. This was another of my mobile walking spots, sit spots, is a kind of walking from Foothill down Alomar to Cottage Hospital when I'm working there, and this was the other morning on my way down Alomar, and I just noticed caught my eye looking up in the tree, and I looked up, and there was this beautiful red-shouldered hawk. Now I'm just going to play this little movie clip, and then we'll do another sound practice. But here's the little clip. Now you'll notice the traffic noise in the background, and then this incredible, beautiful hawk in all its utter wildness in the midst of all this kind of everyday busyness, and what and then just the hawk's cry. That's really kind of also what I just wanted to kind of bring in, the cry of this hawk, of the red-tailed hawk. And just as we listened a moment ago to the sound of the bowl and allowed the sound of the bowl to draw us into oneness with it, for me, this hawk is an example of how we can let the sounds in our sit spot, or the color in our sit spot, or again the touch, or whatever sense we're working with, how we can let that draw us into oneness with it. And for me, something extraordinary happens when I if I'm lucky enough, when I'm in my sit spot and and I hear a hawk's cry close by, and it kind of cries over and over. For example, if I close my eyes and I attend to the sound of the hawk's cry, and just allow the sound of the hawk's cry to draw me into oneness with it. And so I just wanted to kind of see how this works. I've never done this before, but I have. I went on the Cornell laboratory site, for birds, and they have the sounds of all the different, the song and the call of all the different birds, including a red-tailed hawk. So here's another very short little sound meditation that I'm going to invite you to participate in. So I'm going to play this. It's a minute and a half long. I don't know how it's going to come across. It's there's something very wild and about a hawk's cry, and just to listen to it and notice how our mind tends to kind of react and come in with comments and suggestions and labels and thoughts, but just notice that and let it go, and then coming back to the raw sensation of hearing and letting the hawk's cry draw you into oneness with it. Okay, so if you're willing, once again, just taking your posture, feet in the ground, seat on the chair, straight back, soft belly, and let's just allow the sound of the hawk to take us into oneness with it. Just allowing the sound to take you into oneness with it. Now, obviously, that's a very different sound to the sound of the bowl, which is gentle and kind of has associations of resonance and meditation and calming. It's a very wild sound. I notice how part of me is almost alarmed by it, its rawness and its wildness. Um, and part of me kind of pulls back. It's kind of noticing that, but also noticing how when I can, even for short little moments, allow myself to be drawn into oneness with it, it seems to bring me deep into the forest or deep into some very wild place. So, yeah, so all of that, just a little kind of lead in. And those of you who've just kind of joined as we've gone along here, just to say we're really just going to take some time this evening to check in a little bit. And the first area we wanted to check in is around sit spot and how that's going for people and whether challenges are coming up for you. I mean, I'd also love to hear how those two little exercises went, if anybody'd like to share. So I'm going to just stop the slide here for a moment and we can come back a little later. But let's just take a little time together for any thoughts you have or any stories. John, have you a story to share? No? Okay. Love to hear from any of you that have or any comments or how that experience went for you, the sound meditation. Yeah.
Well, actually, I do have something to say, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
First of all, I really want to thank you for your depth of knowledge and your teaching. You're the archetype of the teacher and the healer. What a wonderful dual combination. And I feel so blessed that you exceed my experiences in college with wonderful professors. You're right up there. So I have a lot of gratitude for your work.
Yeah.
And that's it for now.
Thanks, John. That's very kind. Thank you. Well, I love talking about this stuff. It's kind of, it's, yeah, it's my passion. It's what I'm really interested in. Mary, please.
Yeah, I think this whole throughout the program, I've gotten so much more attuned to birds when I walk, and I think before it was like a background noise I would tune out. And now even when I'm just walking around town, it really I think, earlier when you said let it pull you in, and that ever since then I've been doing that more and really, kind of stopping what I'm thinking and just hearing, just kind of, crows or whatever. But it really has kind of changed the way,
Mhm.
um, when I'm out, that I'm not just looking at things, I'm really tuning in. My sit spot, I was walking behind the rose gardens and then they mowed down all those weeds. So and then I was I was sitting outside and then I'm doing some yard work. So I haven't had a great, I'm still searching for my good sit spot, but the birds have been, even when I was outside and it wasn't great in my backyard, just seeing the birds and hearing them was wonderful. And I'm sure they'd been there for years, but I just really hear them and I'm so much more aware of their presence than I used to be. It's
Yeah,
been
that's
great.
that's beautiful, Mary. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it sounds in a way you're having a sit spot experience, even though you haven't maybe found the spot,
I think so. Yeah.
That's exactly what you're describing. You're really coming into that sort of sensitivity and that sort of connection Um, and you know, it's a natural affinity that we have. It's just that it's been clouded over. You know, it's gone to sleep because
Right.
you know we haven't had to rely on it. Or you know, why would we tune into it really?
Right.
If
Right. Well,
if
and we're always having earbuds in now, which I've kind of stopped wearing on my walks because
uh
it's so nice not to, but it's so easy to get back into that.
Well, you know, one of the persons I've learned so much about kind of nature connection from is a guy called John Young, Jon Young, Young, and he wrote a wonderful book called What the Robin Knows, and it's a book all about bird language,
Oh,
but and really what you just described is kind of like
well,
you know you're a number of steps down that path of kind of really coming back into deep connection by opening up these kind of real natural affinities we have, but we've
right.
forgotten. And there was a time, I mean, he points out that there was a time when literally our survival depended on our being tuned in to the natural world in that way. You know, because when you tune into bird song, a lot of the time it's kind of birds singing as they do,
Yeah.
or it's kind of just what does he call it? It's like bass line, you know, it's kind of
Yeah.
just the kind of natural chatter of birds back and forth to each other. But as you begin to kind of tune in more to that sound field, that soundscape, you begin to notice all kinds of subtleties. Like, for example, if you're tuned into the bird song and you're walking along, and then suddenly everything goes absolutely silent.
Oh,
What's happened, that's called kind of a zone of silence. And what happens there is, what's happening there is the birds immediately around you have noticed an accipiter, a bird eating hawk, that
wow.
has either flown over and they've just suddenly gone silent, or has
Hmm.
kind of landed on a tree nearby and they've noticed it. And so, you know, and then sometimes if, you know, you're walking along and you hear that bass line kind of chorus, and suddenly it turns into a kind of a more harsh, you know,
Yeah.
call, you know, um, that may be another kind of alarm call, and it may be that there's a cat kind of walking around the neighborhood, or you know something like. So you
Yeah.
begin,
Yeah.
and of course those kind of skills were at one time when we were living on the plains of Africa, or our ancestors were. Those kind of skills were absolutely essential survival skills for
Oh,
us because it might mean that there was a large predator around the corner, you know, and
right.
we were tuned into the sound field, and suddenly everything went very silent, or we heard alarm calls.
Yeah.
We'd take notice. So, um, but you know, it's not that our survival depends on that anymore. It's more about reawakening those
Right.
kind of very old neural pathways, because when those old neural pathways waken up in us, so does a whole kind of sensibility and a kind of wisdom that comes with them. So it's
That's
the
great.
tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, no, and I think it does make me, even when I drive, kind of not just be more slow because I'm like more, oh, I didn't no need to rush anywhere. I mean, it does, as you say, I mean, I think it has impacted me more than just hearing the birds.
Yeah, beautiful,
Right.
beautiful, and
Thanks.
good luck in finding the spot. You know.
Yeah, we
Someone
certainly.
said it's not, yeah, some Native Americans saying, you know, it's not for us to stalk the vision is
Uh,
stalking us. So
that's
maybe
great.
your sit spot will find you one of these
That's
days.
great.
Yeah,
Hey, thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
I, I'd like to comment about the meditation we did with the bird.
Uh-huh.
Um, I thought I was going along with the sound, but then I thought it sounded like a chick or a young bird kind of demanding some food or something. It sounded like it was getting a little bit charged uh, during the call there for a moment.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and then I one evening I was in my room and I was kind of journaling as the way I processed some things that I was upset about something, and I heard an owl. My neighbor has a redwood tree in the yard, and I heard an owl, and it immediately took me away and up into that tree, listening to that hoo 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 hoo.
Oh, yeah.
And I was really surprised at how quickly it shifted where I was emotionally and my mood to out there, and it felt so good, and
Beautiful.
really appreciated that. And then yesterday morning, I turned on the sprinklers in my sit spot is my backyard. So I had the sprinklers running in the morning, and this mockingbird was flying through all the little droplets of the sprinkler, and finally he landed on, there's a little fence out there, and he sat there just letting all the droplets hit him, and he's opening up his wings and then shaking himself off, and then he flew into the kaffir lime tree, and he just kind of rubbed himself all over the leaves just to like get more wet, and then went back to the fence and sat there. And I thought, gosh, he's having such a good time. And I was just out there, and the air was kind of chilly. I was surprised that they're very thin-skinned, and but he didn't mind at all.
Yeah.
So I really, really enjoyed that. And then I've made it a little devotional practice each morning to, how the Buddhists, they'll have a plate with some food and some water and some flowers. And so before I have my cup of tea or coffee or anything, I'll go out and I'll pick a few flowers to make a little nosegay, and I'll put it on the plate and then give it fresh water and some food. And then it also helps me to realize that it's really hard. Some things I put there, I really want to put it in the water. I don't want it to die. So it's kind of helping me with the acceptance of impermanence, that I have to throw these living things away on a daily basis. So anyways, that's all I had to share. Thank you.
Wow.
That's beautiful, Sean. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love your offering each day to the beauty and the spirits of the place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really helped me a lot, because I've really gotten away from any kind of belief in anything, and it's really helping to bring me back.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And thank you. I mean, you it sounds like you had utterly that sound being drawn into oneness with the owl. It happened for you.
Did.
Spontaneously.
I did. Yeah. It's such a rare sound anymore.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. And I agree. There's something a little harsh in that urgent, and maybe in that hawk's cry.
Yeah.
It's communicating pretty strongly.
Yes.
Yeah. I noticed something in me is kind of, can hear the wildness, can feel the wildness, but also there's something in me that pulls back a little bit. I noticed that. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Linda. Yeah, please.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you and let you know that I forget whether it was Sunday or last week, you mentioned an author, and I started reading the book Beyond Words. You familiar with that one?
By whom?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I'd have to go and look up his name. You mentioned another book, but I was able to get this one on Audible and listen to it rather than having to order a hard copy.
I wonder, was it Carl Safina?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, and
So you have not read that one, Beyond Words?
I haven't read Beyond Words, no.
Okay. Well, he begins talking about elephants.
Oh, right.
He explains how communication, how really intelligent other animals are, non-humans are, and how they communicate,
Mm-hmm.
not only with each other, but
Mm-hmm.
how they also can read us as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And detect a lot of information about us. And so when you played the hawk sound just now, I didn't, yes, it sounds a little harsh, but I found myself wondering more, what is the bird saying, without the words?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes it, the people, the elephants, and he begins with elephants and he goes into wolves. And the people who are guiding him have been with either of the two animals 24, well, every day. Every day, observe them. They know every single one of the animals.
Mm-hmm.
The elephants are given a name, the wolves are given a number.
Mm-hmm.
And he describes just amazing accomplishments of these animals that require a lot of intelligence and a lot of introspection, So I just wanted to thank you for recommending him.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, thank you, Linda, and thanks for, yeah, I've seen that book, but I haven't read it, and I'll look into it. But the book I had mentioned of Carl Safina's was The View from Lazy Point.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's really a beautiful book. It's kind of him describing his year at Lazy Point, but he's a nature writer and he goes to different parts of the world that are kind of experiencing different kind of challenges, like the Great Barrier Reef, or to the Arctic, or to the rainforests, or and he talks about what's going on, and then he kind of goes to a philosophical place. So anyway, it's another great read.
Yeah, after this I might get into that. As far as the sit spot, I'm also not settled on mine. I'm on the East Coast, so while this began, your weather was much warmer there, and January, February, whenever it was, even March was a little cold to be outside. I'm wondering what you think about a swimming pool as a sit spot. I go to a pool on a regular basis, a community pool that I love to swim in, and it has big open windows, and you can see, the grounds, the trees, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I don't see why not. I think the kind of key thing is, something, some aspect of the other than human world. So not so much the swimming pool, but the water in the pool could
Yeah,
be
yeah,
the object of your intention, the water, or indeed, the sky or the trees around. Yeah, if while you're sitting there, that could become. I could see how that could become a sit spot. Sure.
okay. I'm usually moving through it, not sitting.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think for me, one of the key things is, yeah, becoming familiar through kind of through repetition, through kind of coming back again and again and again. Um, but there's also kind of a piece at the center of it, which you described there when you were talking about, the elephants and the wolves and the people who are with them 24/7. It's almost as though they have sort of crossed over into the lives of, they've crossed over some sort of line into wildness.
Yeah.
Wildness in the sense of spontaneity, it's like Rilke has a line in one of his poems, the German poet Rilke, where he says, "If we surrender to the earth's intelligence, we can rise up rooted like trees." If we surrender to the earth's intelligence, we can rise up rooted like trees. And it's like as though there's this incredible intelligence around us, and we tend to think it's all in our heads, all in our human heads. But in fact, there's this big mind and these many intelligences that are part of that. And so part of I think what's at the key for me of sit spot practice is kind of reaching a point. And for me, this kind of practice of kind of letting touch or letting sight or letting sound
Here,
take me
Walter.
into what take me into oneness with it can really helps me to cross that line from my thinking mind
Here, honey.
into the bigger mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Linda.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you.
So anyone else like to come in with
Yes.
yeah, go ahead, Helen.
The reason I jumped in is because did I front run someone, as they say? Was someone ahead of me?
It's okay. No, you go ahead.
Okay. Didn't mean to be the aggressive New Yorker there. I just was relating to Beyond Words. No, I have not read the book either. I've heard of it. But very interesting what you both brought up, because I've been listening to birds and a lot of joy in the morning and going, oh, those babies or whatever. But we had a really interesting situation yesterday where the hawks were not the hawks, which I love that sound. The crows, they usually make about 5 minutes of noise where we are. However, yesterday they were just crazy, and I went and looked out the window, and they were low flying on the ground and all in the trees. And it was interesting because I think it has been a long time, and I think it's due to the listening. More listening. And so I was like, okay, are we in trouble? Are we having an earthquake? What are they trying to say? Are they having a predator? All these scenarios were going in my mind because they were so in this distress mode and acting really weird. And it went on for a good 45 minutes, and there was no hawk around. So I don't know what it was, but it made me start to pay attention more of, are they experiencing something in nature itself, that we humans sometimes just discount it, of what that means. And I have no answers, but it made me listen more to a wider view, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could go the other way, with my mind going all over the place. But it was a very interesting experience, and saying, I wonder what they're trying to say and to who.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't have answers.
Mm-hmm.
I could make them up, but it was a spontaneous reaction to it versus in the past just saying, wow, they're really going crazy, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And leaving it at that. I wanted to take it to, I think, it was interesting to actually think about what is it they're trying to say? Mm-hmm. Are we in trouble ourselves? How dogs get, or an earthquake, and animals and birds get, or through so many things. Not that it has to be a disaster,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I'm just relating Beyond Words.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think I need to read that book.
Yeah. No,
Hey, honey. Yeah. I love
That listening factor of there's such a, as you teach, Michael, the deeper levels, I'm not always ready to go to the deeper level, but at least I know there are levels to still go to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. Kind of the deep listening and a sort of humility that we just sometimes can't figure it out, but we can be present to it, and we can kind of notice the feeling in it.
Yeah.
Just from my observation of crows and that kind of behavior that you're describing, I've seen that a number of times. And often it is that there is an owl or a hawk, but it's hidden. You can't see it, it's
okay.
kind of, but they see it. They know it's there. They know the owl perhaps is resting in a tree.
Right.
And so they're kind of circling and dive bombing it, and making a lot of racket. a lot of times that's what's going on.
Yeah,
Not necessarily that that's what was going on yesterday, but yeah.
no, I have something buzzing in the background. I thought that too. It was just that they were flying so low on the ground and low in the trees. So perhaps it was something hidden in
Hmm.
the trees that I couldn't see. But
Hmm.
yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It certainly sounds it. Thank you. So just let's just see. Anybody else have any sit spot experiences? Darlena, love to hear our comments or reflections.
Yeah, I I mean, if I tried to go through all of the sit spot stories that I had since we started, it would take the rest of the time and then some. But just to highlight, I think I've told you all about the hummingbirds that helped me to know that it was my sit spot at the very beginning. I think last time I said something about the bees that spontaneously swarmed and then disappeared. Um, I've had a blue jay that came right up to my little mini patio I created to sit and watch, and found some of my long hair, and a little twig on the welcome mat that was near the sit spot, and flew off with it and joined its partner as it was creating a nest. And it just gave me such a thrill. I think my hair was going to be in a nest somewhere,
Oh,
you
how
know.
beautiful.
And then I'm calling them the bird condos now, because the palm trees, there's four of them that are in my view from where I sit. And there's so much activity there with the birds. And I think at one point I shared that there was quite the entertaining display as two little starlings were trying to scare off a hawk, and then a second hawk that came through. And then come to find out that those starlings were protecting a nest, and then
Hmm.
hearing the little chirping of the babies every time they would drop the food off.
Hmm.
And so it's just really been very wonderful that this place that's been here all along, just outside my office, is so full of life. It
Hmm.
feels, I have the street noises and so forth too, just like in your video. And so maybe it just brings me awareness that my my anthropocentric blinders have been more focused on the people stuff, and now I've shifted and attuned more into the nature. We also have an owl here, that I hear quite often at night.
Hmm.
And I don't remember who. I have a gratitude. Somebody suggested the Merlin app. So I've been learning the names of the bird calls that I've been hearing as well, which
Oh,
has
yeah.
been fantastic.
That's great.
And
That's great.
yeah, it's just so many stories. I'm really super grateful. And the first time I did this with you, I was also a little unsettled on my sit spot, because there's so many beautiful places to go walking that feel a little bit more wild than the
Mm.
spot that I'm in. But this one is so much more accessible. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
very much a fan of having multiple sit spots now, and one that's
Hmm.
extremely accessible, and then others that can be a little wilder.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that, Darlene. Yeah, because it reminds me of kind of the benefits of having a sit spot close to home that you become kind of deeply familiar with. And part of the reason you're seeing more of what's happening in, just outside your door is because the beings that live with you and around you are allowing themselves to be seen more. That's one of the things I kind of remember learning from John is he so when you go to your sit spot first and you sit there, you may think not a whole lot's going on here. But in fact there's there's many worlds happening around you, within feet of you. Um, and over time, as the place and the beings of the place become more familiar with you, they're less defensive, and they show themselves. And yeah, if those of you that really kind of get into this sit spot practice, which I think is for me a lifelong wonderful practice to take forward, but really check out John's book, What the Robin Knows, because there's some wonderful information there about, for example, around the patio just outside where I'm sitting here, there's a family of wrens. Now, wrens are very shy birds, and uh, every day when I walk down the road in the morning, I see little spotted towies. Those are those little brown birds that are often there in pairs, and they kind of scratch feed and they talk to each other back and forth. And so, and there's a pair of crows that, just live in the neighborhood here. And they've been here for about the last 10 years, and I've seen them raise, a family each year. So you get to know, but they get to know you too. And they're not so afraid, and they allow you, you just notice, you walk by and they haven't flown away, or they walk by. And I mean, John would always say to me, if you're walking down the road and you see some little black-eyed juncos or some little spotted towhee, or not spotted towhees, but just California towhees, the little brown ones, if you see them feeding, just show respect by kind of walking to the other side of the road to where they are, just to give them the kind of space, and they can continue feeding so they don't have to get out of the way as you walk by. But just noticing and noticing over time, seeing the wrens just allowing themselves to be seen a little more. And a very, very discreet bird is in this part of the world, those Santa Barbarans, our West Coast folks, is the spotted towhee. And it's a beautiful bird. I don't know, those of you can look up the spotted towhee. But they are much, much shyer than the California towhee, the regular little brown one. And so when you notice in your sit spot that you see wren or you see spotted towhee, it's often a sign that they're relaxing, they're allowing themselves to be seen, kind of in a way you've arrived. You're not a kind of a danger, like maybe, not that you were, but that you were maybe seen at first, until you became familiar. Yeah, so thank you. Now, anyone else I think we're kind of going to spend our time on sit spot, and we're nearly there, but love to hear if anybody else has any stories from your sit spot or any questions about the practice. If not, let me just go back quickly. I don't know if there was anything else that I was going to cover here. Let me just see. Oh yeah, if we hadn't had sit-stop stories, I was going to take a time for a meditation and check in and see about meditation stories. But yeah, that was our little kind of what we need to move forward list, and where do we go from here. So yeah, so maybe that's just kind of where we'll kind of finish, is just kind of talk for a few minutes about where we might go from here. And so this kind of brings us to the end of this particular series. Any of you are welcome to come along to the morning sessions as well, obviously. And then there are, some live events. There's the one at the Sedgwick Reserve coming up in a couple of weeks' time on May 24th. But I've just heard that is actually fully subscribed at this stage, but there is a wait list for that. And we're going to run that program again in October. It's going to be a 4-day kind of nature and meditation immersion in the Sedgwick Reserve in October. But I mean, we were talking at the start, Sandy was asking, whether this series will run again. And the answer is yes, it will, Sandy. But I think it'll probably be, when I'm finished the morning version, it'll probably be on the other side of the summer recess, kind of coming into fall. And I'll kind of announce, through Mindful Hearts when that's happening. But one thing I had thought of suggesting is that we could continue to have a session like we've just had, a sort of sit spot check-in practice, session like this, Darlene will remember, when we were doing a similar program as part of the facilitator training, we had I think it was once a month, was it, Darlene? We were doing a sort of sit spot check-in, and it was kind of just a really nice way of staying in touch and having, sharing our stories. And so that would be a possibility if there was interest in that, of kind of once a month. I can put it out there, whether it will need to fit in with the other Mindful Heart offerings. There's something happening on a Monday night, on a Tuesday night, and on a Thursday night. So it would have to be either probably a Wednesday night, actually, like this.
I'd be interested, and then maybe if we kept the same time and Wednesday night, it would be, most people already have it open on their calendar if they're participating now.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mary. So yeah, let's tentatively say we'll make it a Wednesday night, and I think if we make it kind of like the first Wednesday or the last Wednesday of the month, that might be a way of remembering it. Okay, so why don't we say the first Wednesday of the month we'll do a sit spot check-in. It'll be a sit spot and meditation check-in, but kind of the core deep resilience, luminous resilience practices, we'll touch into them.
That sounds great.
Okay, well, I'll put out a little reminder about that too, to let people know. Okay, well, thank you all very much, and I really appreciate very much all of you kind of turning up week after week. It's been really nice.
Thank you, Michael.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you,
so
Michael.
much. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Amazing. Really, really grateful.
Thanks, Cassandra. Thanks for being part of it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
May the force be with you. No.
May the forest be with you.
I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss you guys.
Yeah.
We'll see you on Wednesday in a month.
We'll
Okay.
see
And
you.
the movies.
Okay.
So it'll be the first Wednesday of June. We'll see you back. Okay.
Wednesday.
Great.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.